Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So I'm going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations, text number 28. But I'm not going to read the whole purport because that would take up the rest of the class. It's quite a long. Although I think the purport would probably say more than I can, but the way I read the purport would probably put everyone to sleep. So try to say something, keep everyone awake. Ete changsa kala pumsam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indriyani Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete changsa kala pumsam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete changsa kala pumsam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indriyani Vakilam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. Dami. Ete changsa kala pumsa. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Indrari Vakilam Lokam. Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. I'll just read the translation here. All the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. The Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets. Whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists, the Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Purport here. In this particular stanza, Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. Avatar means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend on different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life, to fulfill particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions, or parts of his plenary portions, or his differentiated portions, directly and indirectly empowered by him, descend on this material world to execute specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with greater volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time. Namo Vishnu Varaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyadyade Zatarane. It might seem the easiest appearance day to talk about should be Krishna Janmashtami, since our whole philosophy is based upon Krishna. But as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we have knowledge which is confidential, knowledge which is more confidential, and the most confidential knowledge. It just so happens that knowledge of the self, that we're eternal, is confidential. It's confidential because already, although we've been telling that to everyone we meet for the last 50 years, no one has heard it so far. So it's quite confidential. Even you can shout it, no one will hear it. And more confidential than that is Paramatma. And although Paramatma is right in our hearts, and we're 100%, 24 hours a day, every 7 days a week, 365 point something days a year, depending on him, he's even more confidential because we're less aware of him than we are of the fact that we're eternal, which really says a lot about how much we're aware of him. And then, even more confidential than that is Krishna, knowledge about Krishna. Inconceivably confidential because he's the source of the whole thing. He's the source of everything, way beyond what we experience, way beyond what we perceive, way beyond everything we can imagine. We can't even begin to imagine Krishna as he actually is. So it's very confidential, and to talk about someone so confidential requires some confidential knowledge, which I don't have very much confidential knowledge. So it's very hard to talk about Krishna confidentially. Of course, we could talk about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, and that would probably keep everyone awake for a little while. Unfortunately, I know nothing about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. So we'll have to, if anyone falls asleep, we'll have to provide a bed outside. On the other hand, what we do know is explained in the Bhagavatam. Whatever we know, of course, comes from the Bhagavatam. But to understand that we're eternal, that we're directed by Paramatma. But the whole thing is, why is Paramatma directing our eternal selves? What is he directing us to? Why do all these incarnations come, whether it be Ramadi, Murti, Shu, Kalani, Mena, Tishtan, Nanavataram, Akaro, Bhuvaneshu, Kintu, Krishnak, Swayam, Samavat, Paramat, Pumanyo, Govindam, Adi, Purushang, Tamahang, Bhujami. So many incarnations came, and of course we're living in Slovenia, so for us, it wasn't part of our school years to find out about the incarnations. And probably in India, no longer is it like that either. The first time I went to Vrindavan, which was in 1974 or 72, I can't even remember, I met some school children in Govardhan. And I saw they had some books, so I said, what's the book that you have? What do you study in school? And he said, Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I said, I should have went to that school. But nowadays, I don't think in most schools, and even in India, they don't teach about Bhagavad Gita or the incarnations. But there are so many incarnations, and we hear about them. We have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva on our altar. We celebrated Balaram's appearance day, Lord Balaram, and we have Lord Nrsingadev still on the altar. I guess he got attached. I guess Prasadam was good in Slovenia. He didn't want to be put in a corner somewhere. So there are so many incarnations, but they all have a purpose. It's the same purpose, to revive the religious principles of society and to protect the devotees and to annihilate the non-devotees. Of course, our incarnation of this age doesn't come to kill demons, although he almost did it, but Lord Nityananda stopped him. Because Jagai Madai, he was about to kill them, but Lord Nityananda said, if you kill them, they might as well kill everyone, because they're comparatively good compared to everyone else. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come to kill anyone. He came to kill the demoniac consciousness so that we can understand Krishna as he really is. Krishna came 5,000 years ago, And he displayed his pastimes in Vrindavan. And he displayed his pastimes in Dwarka. He displayed his pastimes in Mathura. And so many people saw him. When we read the Krishna book, we'll find out when Krishna was in Dwarka, he was invited to Hastinapur to participate in the yagya that Yudhisthira Maharaj, the Ashvamedha yagya, not Ashvamedha, Rajasuya. The Rajasuya sacrifice, which would declare Yudhisthira Maharaj as the emperor of the whole world. And we understand the world at that time was not this tiny planet we call Earth. It was actually much bigger than that, beyond our conception. So Krishna came, and when he came, he had a lot of accompaniment. He came with his 16,108 queens and their servants, their bodyguards, their animals. Everyone came. So the earth was a little bit different back then. It wasn't this tiny little earth planet that we have now. But anyways, when he crossed through all these Anartha and Jangala and other different provinces, everyone who saw Krishna fell in love with Krishna just by seeing him. And of course, when he arrived in Hastinapur, everyone was very anxious to come and greet him. That anxiety we have to learn so that Mangalarti, we jump out of our beds and run to the altar. Then we can actually see Krishna. If we go, oh yeah, that's the same old Mangalarti, I don't know why the Lord gets up so early. I guess he doesn't like his devotees. He wants to torture them. That attitude, Krishna will say, yes, I'm just a statue. Maybe you shouldn't come here. I'm just wasting your time. Yeah, you're right. I think I'll fall asleep during Mangalarti too. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Wake me up at the end of Mangalarti. Now Krishna he's reciprocating all the time. I remember one time I was in front of Radha Shyama Sundar. I wasn't exactly in front of them, but some of the residents of Vrindavan, the Brajavasis came, farmers actually. And they came and they were dancing before the deities, and you can't imagine the enthusiasm that they had dancing before Radha Shyam. It was just like it put all of us, although we were dancing also, in comparison to them, we were asleep. So that enthusiasm is what actually Krishna reciprocates. If we actually want to know Krishna, then Krishna actually wants to reveal himself, but we have to develop that desire. So Krishna comes in so many incarnations, and he displays himself in so many different ways to develop a desire in the hearts of the living entities, ultimately to get to know Krishna himself. Of course, Krishna is all attractive, so he's attractive in his incarnations, but he's most attractive as an seemingly ordinary cowherd boy in Vrindavan. Of course, it's not ordinary. They're living in a completely spiritual atmosphere. The whole atmosphere is simply prema. It's not just love, it's intensified love. And there's nothing but happiness in that atmosphere. There's nothing but ever increasing intensity of that feelings of love and desire to please each other, especially to please Krishna. Because Krishna is the unlimited source of love, and when he's pleased, and everyone, and Srimati Radharani, when they're pleased, that loving expands even more. So Krishna comes to give us the idea, ultimately, of it's better to be on Krishna's side than to be on the other side. So he has to come and he displays these pastimes, and people appreciate that. Lord Ramachandra comes, and he has quite exciting pastimes. In the Ramayan. The Ramayan was so popular that if you go to Indonesia, if you go to the Philippines, if you go to Singapore, Krishna's pastimes, I went to Thailand. And in Thailand, there are temples. And in the temples, although they're Buddhist temples, they had the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Because everyone loves these pastimes. Although they make up their own pastimes sometimes. The devotees do that too. But anyhow, the Lord Ramachandra is so attractive that if you go at one airport, I believe it was in Singapore, that when you leave the airport, there is a Krishna as Kurma is there, right in the airport. And on top of him is Mount Meru, and the demigods and the demons are churning with Vasuki, churning the ocean of milk. What's that? In Bangkok, yes, I thought in Thailand. So this at one time it was all over the world, these pastimes of Krishna, and therefore people were, even now, they're still remembering Ram Raj, and in different places, Buddha, who's also an incarnation. But the whole purpose is for those who are eligible to Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this age, in order to bring with him the pastimes of Krishna that he displayed in Dwarka 5,000 years, and not in Dwarka, in all the different places actually, but principally in Vrindavan, that he displayed 5,000 years ago. To bring it in a way that we can all most easily actually enter into those pastimes through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, through the service to his Sankirtan movement. Service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is actually service to Radha and Krishna. Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Radhe Krishna, Nahe Anya. There is no difference between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Now, we're not in Vrindavan, but we are in Vrindavan because we're in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's temple, and as much as we're serving the Panchatattva, we actually have access to Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And all the pastimes, wherever Krishna is, all the incarnations are. When Krishna came 5,000 years ago, all the incarnations joined with him. And similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago, all the incarnations joined with him. So it takes a little discrimination to know. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about many different things. He talks about creating the universes. He talks about killing the demons. He talks about so many different things. He's even the universal form for those who like exciting things. Chewing up all the warriors on the battlefield. So sometimes Krishna is not even a vegetarian. I don't know what he does with the armor and the bows and everything, but I hope they don't get stuck in his throat. I mean, rarely he eats the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It's only once every 5,000 years, once in a day in Brahma. Generally, he's a vegetarian. But we shouldn't imitate Krishna and eat warriors, so we should be careful. So Krishna's appearing in so many different ways in the Bhagavad Gita, but actually the whole Bhagavad Gita is directed. Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita from the point of view of Krishna, and explaining some of his incarnations and what they're doing and why they're doing it. But ultimately, even his incarnations appear like Nrsimhadev, appearing to rip apart Hiranyakashipu and then taking on Hiranyakashipu's followers, but he's actually Krishna. It's not that Krishna changes his mood when he becomes Lord Nrsimhadev. Lord Nrsimhadev is Krishna, just like, as I said before, as Prabhupada also said, that there's a judge. His name is Your Honor, and everyone calls him Your Honor. And he wears a certain uniform. He has a certain activities. He's condemning someone to death, and he's giving someone else a big award of money. When he goes home at night, he takes off his clothes, his judge's uniform, and he puts on his wife and children come and bring him his robe, his bathrobe, and his slippers, and they call him John. And he doesn't condemn his children to death. You rascals, you didn't take the garbage out. I condemn you to hang tomorrow. No, he has completely different activities at home. He's the same person. One place they call him Your Honor, the judge. The other place they call him John. His wife and his children play with him. Probably gives the example that there is a big, big prime minister in England. And one time one man had an interview with him, and the secretary of the prime minister said that please wait outside, the prime minister is busy. So he waited outside for an hour. And he said, what's going on? So he snuck in and tried to see, and he saw the prime minister was on his fours, his two hands and his knees, and on his back was his grandchild. And he was playing the part of a horse, and his grandchild was riding him around the office. Giddy up, giddy up. Here's the prime minister of England, which happened to rule the world at that time, and he's playing the part of a horse for his grandchild. So this is Krishna, that although he's taking part in so many incarnations, and apparently in great anger he's ripping apart Hiranyakashipu, but actually it's not out of material anger. It's an attempt to bring Hiranyakashipu back to his original consciousness. Krishna doesn't change his consciousness in any place at any time. He always has the same loving consciousness under all circumstances. Although it would be inappropriate with Hiranyakashipu to play, ball with him. Hiranyakashipu is about to cut off Prahlad Maharaj's head. Out appears Lord Nrsimhadev. He says, "Oh, Hiranyakashipu, we'd like to play some ball." Wait a second, I got to chop off this little kid's head first. No, it would be inappropriate. We wouldn't have any Krishna book. We wouldn't have any Srimad Bhagavatam. No, Krishna has to make it all appropriate. From our point of view, we may misunderstand because we're not perhaps in that internal energy to understand Krishna's different moods. As a matter of fact, even Brahma, when Krishna appeared out of the pillar and he ripped apart Hiranyakashipu, even Brahma was afraid. Indra was afraid. Chandra was afraid. All the demigods were afraid. Even Lakshmi Devi, who sits who massages Lord Narayan's feet eternally, even she was afraid. What to speak of our little selves? So in the back of our mind, we think, oh yeah, Nrsimhadev, nice guy, but I wouldn't like to meet him in a dark place. You might mistake me for a demon because sometimes I'm in a bad mood. And I have a very sensitive stomach. No, we should understand that Krishna never changes his consciousness. But at the same time, inconceivably, he manifests all these different pastimes in order to appropriately help all living entities make progress somehow or another towards reality, to a certain level of reality. The two main levels of reality is Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, and subsequently there's a little gradations from Lord Ramachandra in Ayodhya to Krishna in Dwarka, and finally the original Krishna, Swayam Krishna, Swayam Rupa, in Vrindavan is Krishna holding a flute. But those are the two different levels of consciousness that everything is aimed at. They're all full of unalloyed love and ecstasy. Certainly slightly different mood, which is very inconceivable to us, because on one level, Krishna, he's amazing. We cannot even begin to conceive what Vaikuntha is like. We think, oh, it's all awe and reverence. It's awe and reverence because they realize how amazing Krishna is, how unlimitedly beautiful he is, how unlimitedly strong he is, how unlimitedly opulent he is in every respect. So they're in love with him because he's wonderful in every respect. And we think, oh, that's for the neophytes. I'm a Krishna Bhakta. I don't deal with the four-handed Narayan. No, Narayan, if we saw Narayan, we'd also fall in love with Narayan. But Krishna doesn't manifest opulence like Narayan. He manifests intensified love, of which the opulence of unlimited strength would be an impediment. If Krishna was fighting with the cowherd boys and Krishna picked up the cowherd boy and threw him into another Vaikuntha planet, it would be a little, they said, where did that guy go? Oh, Krishna, he just got into a different mood temporarily. I hope he brings him back. No, Krishna can't display all his opulences and at the same time be treated like an ordinary boy, ordinary cowherd boy. And even if he does, sometimes, then the cowherd boys don't really take it very seriously. The gopis don't take it seriously because of their intensified love for this child, Krishna, as we have here, Gopal Krishna in the lap of his mother. She can look into his mouth and see all the universes and think, wow, there must be some demigod, bewildering me. It looks like my son has all the universes in his mouth. Maybe he's a demigod or something. Who cares? But, there's that little bit of dirt Balaram was talking about. Krishna, close your mouth and don't eat dirt. Out of pure love, she can't conceive of Krishna as anything else other than her little child. And she loves him eternally as her little child. Even in Goloka Vrindavan, when Krishna is grown up, because in Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna doesn't go through all these different stages of growth as he does in Gokula Vrindavan, and he displays his pastimes in the universes. But even when Mother Yasoda sees Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, she sees him as a little child. She always, just like practically every mother always sees her child like a little child. Even he's 70, 90 years old, or 80 years old or something. She still thinks he's a little boy. So that's the nature of parental rasa, vatsalya rasa. So that's eternally there. And Krishna manifests exactly the mood of a little child to Mother Yasoda. When Krishna, for instance, when he pulled down the twin Arjuna trees, then Krishna, the trees fell down and all the cowherd boys were playing in the leaves of the trees, under the branches. And they heard, the residents of Vrindavan heard the tree had cracked. And they all rushed, both trees had cracked. And they rushed to find out what was happening. And Krishna was pretending that he was buried by the tree. And everyone was completely in anxiety, what happened. And then, Mother Yasoda rushed to find out what happened. And Krishna realized he couldn't pretend anymore, that he was hidden by the leaves. Because Mother Yasoda's love for him is so intense, he can't avoid her vatsalya rasa. So he appeared from the branches and he appeared from the leaves. And then the cowherd men picked up Krishna And they said, what happened? They said, oh, Mother Yasoda, she tied me up. And then the trees fell down on me. Oh, and they looked at Mother Yasoda. Did you tie up Krishna like that? And Rohini looked at Mother Yasoda and said, you tied up Krishna? And the trees are falling down all over the place? You almost killed him. And Mother Yasoda became, she practically fainted. She turned pale. And Krishna rushed towards Nanda Maharaj and jumped on Nanda Maharaj and said, yes, she did it to me. And Mother Yasoda became completely in anxiety. She went into her room and fasted for 3 days. And all her servants fasted with her. She was feeling so guilty that she had tied Krishna to the mortar and put him in danger. And Nanda Maharaj was completely in ecstasy. That finally Krishna's treating me better than there's more loving affection between Krishna and me than between Krishna and Mother Yasoda. So he was really enjoying this intensified parental rasa. But 3 days Mother Yasoda was fasting. She wasn't, because Mother Yasoda is like the life of Vrindavan. Although we hear of Madhurya Rasa, is the life outside of the Nandagram. Because Srimati Radharani and her associates, they also participate in the cooking, especially the cooking and the serving. But Mother Yasoda is actually the hostess for everyone in Nandagram. Out of parental love, she's the greatest mother for everyone there. And without her, everything seems much duller in Nandagram. So she wasn't there. And after a while, Nanda Maharaj was feeling quite anxious. Where is Mother Yasoda? Something's wrong here. So Krishna was always with him at this time. And he said, Krishna, I finally decided that anyone who does something like what happened to you, that I should take this strong arm and I should do something against them. And when Krishna heard that, he became completely frightened. He said, no, you don't understand. And then he rushed out and to Mother Yasoda, and then Krishna and Mother Yasoda, were united. That artificially Krishna was separated from Mother Yasoda, but he was feeling more anxious than Mother Yasoda was. So these rasas are going on in Goloka Vrindavan, or even Gokula Vrindavan, which are inconceivable about the amount of intensity of love, which sometimes for us it appears that all the different emotions that appear here of astonishment and ghastly rasa, and Krishna's angry at his mother, angry at his mother. But these are all transcendental rasas just to increase loving attachment, loving feelings. There is nothing about pure unalloyed love in different varieties. And there's no question, even when Krishna displays his opulence, he picks up Govardhan Hill and his little finger, that no one takes it seriously. Because the love is so intense. It's like, the example is when we hear Bhagavad Gita and we hear that we're not this body, and we say, yes, I'm not this body, but we don't take it seriously. We can see that we're not this body with our intelligence, but still we forget about it the next moment and we get back to our normal activities. So they all say, yes, Krishna is God, you pick up the hill, but actually Mother Yasoda says that I think actually Nanda Maharaj picked up the hill. Or the cowherd boys tell Krishna when he's lifting the hill that, why don't you transfer the hill to Subal, and then we can massage your hand a little bit. Even if you think that Subal can't maintain the hill, then at least transfer the hill to your other finger, and we can massage the hand that's holding up the hill right now. So they don't take it very seriously. And when Krishna comes to fight with the demons, they join with him also. They also assist him. They do it Stoka Krishna, when he was fighting against Dhenukasura, Stoka Krishna took his ball and hit Dhenukasura with his ball. So they all try to help Krishna the best they can. I don't think Dhenukasura was quite a strong demon. He was able to uproot Govardhan Hill and throw it at Krishna and Balaram, which is quite a big hill at that time. It wasn't a small little demon. But still, the cowherd boys, they came and they hit him with his stick, and he actually fell unconscious by the cowherd boys hitting with the stick. So they're quite strong also. They're quite powerful. I wouldn't like to get hit by the ball of Stoka Krishna either. But Dhenukasura didn't take it very seriously. So my point is that when we hear these pastimes of Krishna, well, we should take it in a different way. The pastimes of killing the demons were not even performed by Krishna. They were performed by his expansions, although there's no different from the expansions. But we shouldn't think that when we go to Goloka Vrindavan, that, one day we're going to be there and the demons are going to attack. Of course, there are demons in Goloka Vrindavan, but they're all devotees. There are only rumors of real demons in Goloka Vrindavan, but there are no real demons. Keshi in Goloka Vrindavan, the horse demon, rides into Vrindavan in Goloka Vrindavan, and everyone becomes terrified, and Krishna jumps on him and rides him all around Vrindavan because he's a devotee. He actually comes so that Krishna will ride him around Vrindavan. And Kali appears in Jamuna and Goloka Vrindavan, but Krishna and the gopis, they jump on Kali and they have the rasa dance on his hoods. And then Krishna takes the saris from the Kaliya Nagas, the wives of the Kaliya demon, and he threads them around the noses of the snakes and rides Kali around the Jamuna in Goloka Vrindavan. So Kali is also a devotee there. But here there are real demons, and these demons are meant to help us take shelter of Krishna, to teach us how the only shelter is ultimately Krishna. Even these big demons that all the different demigods were afraid of, that when Krishna comes, he very easily kills them in his different manifestations. So that ultimately, pure love for Krishna will manifest itself without any disturbance. It wasn't until actually Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, apparently left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, that there was no more disturbances in Goloka Vrindavan, in Gokul Vrindavan. No more demons came because Krishna wasn't there, apparently. Because Krishna was there, he was there in his Baba form. When Akrura rode into Vrindavan, not Akrura, was it Akrura? No, it was Uddhava, rode into Vrindavan because Krishna wanted Uddhava to deliver a message. So when Uddhava rode into Vrindavan, he saw Vrindavan as it was when Krishna was there. All the cows and all the cowherd boys were playing, and everyone was beautiful Vrindavan. And then when he came to Nanda Maharaj's house, everything became pale at a separation from Krishna. First, Krishna wanted to show Uddhava what it was like when he was actually physically present there. And then he showed Uddhava what it was like when the residents of Vrindavan were feeling separation from him. But actually in that separation, they were constantly absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. They were actually deeper in ecstasy than when Krishna was personally there, and there were no more disturbances from the demons. It was simply pure unalloyed ecstasy and love, remembering Krishna's pastimes. So we have the opportunity to hear these pastimes and become free from our disturbances of our minds, the pastimes of Krishna killing the demons. When our minds are undisturbed, then we can meditate simply on Krishna's pastimes with his Kaura boys and the gopis and his father and mother and everyone else in Goloka Vrindavan. But for now, we should we should hear Bhagavad Gita and everything else that we have available, so that we can especially join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Panchatattva in killing the demoniac spirit in this age, so that people will ultimately be able to appreciate Krishna as he actually is, the unalloyed personality from which the unalloyed manifestation of pure prema bhakti for everyone who lives in Goloka Vrindavan eternally and enjoys pastimes with his associates there. And he's inviting everyone in this form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to kill the demons within their minds and become eligible, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, to go, even in this lifetime, to live with Krishna in his pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan through Krishna Smarana or Leela Smarana, in great feelings of separation and service. So service to Srimati Radharani in this age, service to Krishna, is to bring his other children back to the spiritual world by spreading Krishna Katha and participating in Krishna Katha ourselves. So I'll just tell one short pastime. The end of the 35th chapter of the Krishna book, which is a summary of what happened in the other pastimes, which we don't have time to say. Those pastimes of Krishna were remembered by the gopis during his absence from Vrindavan. They give us some idea of how attractive Krishna is, not only to human beings, but to all animate and inanimate objects. In Vrindavan, everyone and everything is attracted to Krishna, including the lakes, the rivers, the trees, and animals like the deer and the cows. Everyone and everything is attracted to Krishna. That is the perfect description of Krishna's all-attractiveness. The example of the gopis is very instructive for those who want to become Krishna conscious. Everyone can, simply by remembering Krishna's pastimes, everyone has a tendency to love someone. That Krishna should be the object of love is the central point of Krishna consciousness. The example of the gopis is very instructive for those who want to become Krishna conscious. Simply by remembering Krishna's pastimes, everyone could become fully Krishna conscious. By constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Maha Mantra, and remembering Krishna's transcendental pastimes, everyone could become fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness and thus make his life sublime and fruitful. So, these books are not ordinary. They're actually the transcendental world, from Bhagavad Gita all the way up to Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if we spend our time hearing about them, remembering about them, and applying these activities so that our lives become part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and we're able to enter into Krishna's pastimes even in this lifetime. That is, if we serve this movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, become Krishna conscious ourselves and distribute to others, then even in this life, our lives will become part of Krishna's pastimes by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? What's the next program? I think. What's that? There's a drama. Okay. So now we'll have something more dramatic. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada.